Hey there. Thank you for joining today's presentation and welcome to the OperaDDS family. In this webinar, I will introduce you to the OperaDDS software to help get you started. From all of us at Opera, we look forward to serving your practice and helping you become as efficient as possible. Some housekeeping items before we begin. A copy of this webinar will be supplied to the email you registered with. Also, at any point while I'm presenting, if you have any questions, feel free to drop those below and our fantastic team will get back to you. In today's presentation, we'll discuss getting started, adding users, settings, feature training, and end with directing you to our resources. Getting started with OperaDDS. Your office will receive your account login information via email. Make sure to add care@operadds.com to what is called your email whitelist, as this will assure our emails find your inbox properly. Also, make sure you are using Google Chrome Internet Browser. If you don't have Google Chrome, no problem. It's available for free by visiting Google and searching for Google Chrome. When you open Chrome, the login page is found on www.operadds.com by clicking Login in the upper right. When you log in for the first time, your browser may ask to save your credentials. Should you ever need to change or reset your password, you may do so in this area. After you've logged in, you will see the OperaDDS dashboard. What I recommend is navigating to the feature you will be using most often and bookmarking this page for easy access. This way, you're always one click away from instant, efficient communication. Adding users to OperaDDS. Once logged in, let's set up the other team members in your office that will also be using OperaDDS. Click Settings, Account Settings, Company Users. Simply click the New User button to add a team member. Fill out the pop-up with the information for the staff member. I recommend using the team member's email as their username. Emails are easy to remember. Add their name. Enter their email where we will send their login notification. Make sure the email is active and receives emails prior to adding here. Add the user's nickname. If your office uses the chat feature for instant messaging between staff, this is the name that will appear for this user. Give them a role. Users do not have access to company or feature settings of OperaDDS. Admins do. They will have access and can make changes to feature settings as well as company settings such as sending password resets if necessary. Set their landing page. The landing page dictates the page the user will see each time they log in. If you list someone as admin, you will see the company email toggle turn on. This means any email sent to the company email on file will be sent to this user. Deselect if you do not want company emails sent to them. Click Save Changes, and this team member has now been added to your account. You will see all of your added users on this page. A quick note. Notice how this person has an exclamation point next to their name? This means that the user has been added, but they've yet to verify their account by creating a password. The user has been sent an email. Sometimes these emails can show up in the junk folder, so make sure to check there if not received. Once the team member creates their password, the icon will disappear. You may add as many or as few users as you'd like. Next, let's cover settings. Configuring settings of OperaDDS. Click the Settings tab at the top. You will see User Settings, Feature Settings, and Account Settings. User settings consists of user profile, pending emails, PMS integrations, and labs and referrals. User profile is an area to adjust your personal settings, such as your username and password, or even your email signature. Pending emails is a list of offices you have invited to collaborate with you through secure email, who have yet to create their free account to access the information you've sent. PMS integrations shows the status of your sync between OperaDDS and your practice management system. If the last sync is ever more than 48 hours ago, support will assist in getting you reconnected. Most of the time, however, you may disregard this page. Labs and referrals is a list of labs and referrals you have added, as well as an area to add anew. Feature settings go a bit deeper. Feature settings are settings for each feature of OperaDDS. For example, if I were to choose form settings, I would be taken to the Forms Management area to create or edit forms. Since we're on the topic of user settings, a great tool in the OperaDDS platform is what we call the Action Center. Setting up Action Center in OperaDDS. Below the Logout button, there is a newspaper icon. When on, should you receive new items within OperaDDS, a number will display alerting you of something new. Click on this icon, and then click Settings in the pop-up. In this area, you can toggle features on or off. Choose if you would like to be notified via email for forms or recall, and even set an activity summary. For the activity summary, when set at 0, this feature is off. If you select a value in the dropdown, the system will send you an email based on your selection if new items exist. For example, if I select 30 minutes and hit save, later on when I take a lunch break and I'm away from the system and don't catch something new that has been received, the system will send me an email that states, "Here's what you missed while you were away." If nothing new, no email will be sent. A great tool for keeping track of things. Last in our settings review are account settings. OperaDDS account settings consist of company profile, company users, storage information, and payment history. Company profile. On this page, you will want to add your company logo. Make sure your image is sized 300 by 300 pixels. Updating your logo here will apply the change to all forms in your account. For those using recall or reviews, a logo will appear on the messages that are sent from your office. Add company header if you wish. This is an additional image to display next to the logo. This header only applies to recall and reviews and is optional. Make sure email footer is displaying correct information. This is your office information and not the doctor's personal information. Verify your company info is correct, email and phone number. If changes are necessary, click the Edit button and remember to save. Most importantly, verify time zone is set appropriately. Disable time log off if you wish for OperaDDS to keep you logged in. Otherwise, after 60 minutes of inactivity, you will be auto-logged off. We previously covered company users, so moving on to storage information. Storage information is a report to show how much storage each user is accumulating in your account. And payment history is a breakdown of each month's charges. Now that you've had a lay of the land, what's next? Your office will assist in installing OperaDDS on your server to connect your practice management system. This process is super easy and usually only takes a few minutes. A team member or IT person simply needs to provide our team access to your server. Did I mention you may do this during working hours? Connecting OperaDDS does not interfere with your workstations, and like I mentioned, it's super easy. Once installed, we recommend your team to watch the feature training portion of this webinar, as well as utilizing our online training resources in the form of videos and slide presentations. This way, if you ever have a new employee who comes on board, they'll be up to speed in no time. Up next is feature training. To quickly get started, let's cover the basics. There are 9 features we will discuss today: paperless forms, website triage bot, secure video chat, secure email, file storage, cases, chat, recall, and reviews. Let's begin with forms. Welcome to OperaDDS Forms Training. We start by accessing your settings. Click Settings, Feature Settings, Forms Settings. This is commonly referred to as the Forms Management page. On this page, you see the ability to add a new form, where you can create your own digital forms. If you'd like a tutorial on how to use the form creator, click on the small green circle with the question mark in the upper right. This will display an instructional video. We also see the library of forms provided to your office. At the top, we see a packet of forms, or in other words, a group of forms. And below, we see all individual forms. Any form that is green means that this has the special ability to update a patient's chart in your practice management system. These forms are locked and cannot be edited. All others can be edited by your team. For example, if you'd like to add or remove information from the HIPAA form, simply click the Edit button. The toggle, when turned on, will allow the form to be visible in what is called the Forms Updater, which is a form feature on your iPads or tablets that we will cover shortly. The gear icon allows you to dictate who is notified when a form is submitted. So if you've added the doctor to your account, they can be notified of emergency forms, whereas your front office team can be notified of new patient forms. Preview is how to view the form as a patient would see it. Arrange allows you to arrange forms in a packet. Copy is how you can create a new form by using an existing template. Share will open a pop-up that gives you 2 options for providing a form link or an iframe to your web designer. I recommend sending the top link to your web designer unless they specifically ask for the iframe option. If you're adding forms to a recall system, make sure to use the top link. And of course, the trash can icon is how to delete a form from your account. Alright, now that you're familiar with form settings, let's discuss using forms. Please note, your experience depends on the status of the installation on your server. If OperaDDS has been installed and connected to your practice management system, which I will refer to as your PMS moving forward in this presentation, your patients and their information will be provided inside of OperaDDS for easy sending of forms. This connection will also allow you to attach or link the forms you receive directly to the patient's chart with the click of a button. Your office may use forms without this integration, for example, if you choose to use OperaDDS prior to your install date. However, for the best experience, we recommend connecting your PMS. Access your forms sending area by selecting Forms, Blank Forms. Locate the form or the packet of forms you wish to send and click the Send icon next to the form. Search for the patient you wish to send the form to. If your PMS is connected, OperaDDS will filter your list of patients here. If you cannot locate the patient, select New Patient. Patients added here are not added to your practice management system. The New Patient option allows you to send forms to a new patient that is yet to be added to your office's PMS. OperaDDS syncs every 30 minutes, so if you do have a new patient to add, they will appear upon your next sync. Select to send via text or email. As you see here, my OperaDDS is connected to my PMS, and therefore the patient's information is available. You can customize the message or leave as is and hit send. When the patient receives the form, they will click on the link you've sent and will not be required to log in. This assures easy access to completing their forms. All forms are encrypted and HIPAA compliant. Patients sign and submit the forms back to your office securely. You can then view the completed forms under Forms, Completed Forms. Since I am connected to my PMS, I can select Not Linked to link the patient to their forms. This attaches the forms to the patient's chart. Search for the patient. Select the Link to Form button. For forms that have the ability to overwrite patient charts, when linking, you will see a validation pop-up appear. The patient's existing info in your PMS is on the left, and info from the form is on the right. If any information is different, it will display in red on the right side. Verify this is the correct patient and then select Link. This gives peace of mind knowing we have the correct patient before linking. For new patients, we recommend creating a skeleton record for the patient in your PMS in order for them to appear and be linked inside of OperaDDS. For forms that have overwrite ability, OperaDDS will then ask you if you would like to overwrite the patient's chart. If yes, for Dentrix and OrthoTrack, OperaDDS will update the patient's demographic information such as their address, phone number, email, etc. For EagleSoft and OpenDental, OperaDDS will update the patient's demographic information as well as their medical history. If you answer no, you may overwrite the patient's chart at a later time by clicking on the form icon that appears. For all other forms that do not have the ability to overwrite the patient's chart, you will not be asked this question and instead be allowed to link the patient to their forms. Regardless of how you answer, after linking a patient to their forms, a PDF of the forms is immediately sent to the patient's chart. OperaDDS has exclusive access to Dentrix, EagleSoft, and OpenDental. For Dentrix, the PDF of the form and any attachments, such as photos, are sent to the patient's document center. For EagleSoft, the PDF of the form and any attachments, such as photos, are sent to the patient's SmartDoc. And for OpenDental, the PDF of the form and all of the attachments, such as photos, are sent to the patient's images folder. All other practice management systems are encouraged to download the forms manually to be placed in the patient's chart. If you've overwritten the chart, you will see a color indicator showing the status of the overwrite. A yellow indicator will display showing you have triggered the overwrite process. Green equals complete. Information will overwrite as soon as possible depending on your server and Wi-Fi speed. Typically, this only takes a few seconds. Refreshing the page will update the color displayed here. If you would like to simply view an attachment received, click on the paper clip to view any attached images. Remember, after linking a patient, these attachments are also delivered to the patient's chart. Under the Actions column, you can also view the form, download the PDF, or archive the document. So for those on Dentrix who cannot write back medical history, by clicking the View button here, you can easily copy your medical history information and paste it into the patient's chart. To view a list of sent forms, select the Sent Forms tab. This page shows the status of any forms and who sent them from your office. Lastly, let's cover use of forms on iPad. OperaDDS comes with two options for your iPad, a form launcher and a form updater. The form launcher is exactly as it sounds, a feature to launch any form your office has in your account. Simply open the form and hand to the patient to sign and submit. Typically used by the back office for consent forms, the Forms Launcher is a great way to cut down on paper. The Form Updater goes a bit deeper. Typically used by front office teams, the Forms Updater is hidden behind an office login to keep information safe and allows your patients to easily update their information by reviewing previously filled forms. It also showcases the patients on your schedule for quick and easy access when they walk through the door. Simply open the Forms Updater on your iPad and click on the patient or search for them if they are not on the schedule to the left. After selecting a patient, you will see the patient's previously filled forms to update, new blank forms to fill, or if you're an EagleSoft user, you will also see the option to select a treatment plan. When it comes to tablets, we have some recommended sizes. Personally, I'm a big fan of the larger iPads as they are easier for patients to handle and less likely to walk off from your office. To add the form launcher or updater to your iPad, we start with the most important part, privacy. This comes with turning off autofill. On your iPad, open Settings, Safari, Passwords and Autofill, and turn Names and Passwords to off. This will assure patient A's information isn't seen by patient B when filling out forms on the same device. After disabling autofill, on your iPad, open Safari and log in to OperaDDS.com. Click on your Forms tab and go to Blank Forms. Here we see tablet forms. As a one-time setup, click on the launcher or updater, whichever you like to add, and when it opens, stop. On the main page that is open, click the box with the arrow icon and select Add to Home Screen. Rename the form launcher to Launcher, and when you add the form updater, rename that to Updater. Repeat this process for both the form launcher and form updater. Continue this process on any tablets you have in the office you'd like to use forms on. Now, if at any point you need a refresher or some help along the way, make sure to visit our resource center at operadds.com/help, where you will find an in-depth slide tutorial on how to add these items to your devices. I know you're loving forms, but they're about to get even better. Next up, we will cover teledentistry. Welcome to OperaDDS Teledentistry Training. Teledentistry can be accomplished in a few ways. You may use teledentistry as part of the Forms feature by sending any of the default teledentistry forms provided to you, or create your own with the Forms Builder. An example of a teledentistry form that offices love is a form in your account called Virtual Consult Dental Emergency. You may text or email this form directly from the blank Forms page. Any submissions by patients will be displayed in your completed Forms page with attachments for you to easily link to a patient and trigger that information back into their chart. Another great option is the ability to add a teledentistry widget to your website, which we call Website Triage Bot. Welcome to OperaDDS ToothService Training. Referred to as a Website Triage Bot, Toothy here can be added to your website to help guide patients through your teledentistry workflows. Start by logging in at OperaDDS.com. Click the ToothService tab. Click on Sign in to ToothService. You'll be asked to enter your information to authenticate your account. I like to add my Opera login information here. A verification email will be sent to you. Enter the code and you'll be taken into the settings of your widget. You may adjust any settings on the left or proceed straight to your widget. On the widget page, you will see an option to email your web designer with the code that will be added to your website. Once the widget has been added, it will display on your website as seen here. Patients then see the option to Start Virtual Consult. The patient will be guided by the widget. For those with the widget only, you will see three options. The first is I have a dental emergency. When this option is selected, your dental emergency form appears. The next option is I'd like to schedule an appointment, which allows the patient to request an appointment from your office. The third option is I want to improve my smile, which of course is for those who are looking to have cosmetic work done, such as a brighter smile. All submissions through the widget will appear in your completed forms and your ToothService tab along with their attachments. You may link the patient to their teledentistry submissions, which will send the information back to the patient's chart in your PMS. The form as well as the attachments will be sent to the following areas. For Dentrix, the PDF of the form and any attachments such as photos are sent to the patient's document center. For EagleSoft, the PDF of the form and any attachments such as photos are sent to the patient's SmartDoc. And for Open Dental, the PDF of the form and any attachments such as photos are sent to the patient's images folder. All other practice management systems are encouraged to download the forms manually to be placed in the patient's chart. For those with secure video chat, you will see 4 options. The additional option available is called Secure Video Chat, which allows the patient to speak with someone virtually. By selecting this option, patients are guided to your virtual waiting room, where they will fill their information, answer basic questions that are automatically asked by the widget, such as, "Are you a new patient?" And if yes, be asked to fill out their new patient forms. The patient then accepts to join the virtual consult when the doctor is ready, or if they don't want to wait, they can schedule a virtual appointment. When scheduling an appointment, both the patient and the doctor are notified. We've covered what the patient will do, but how about the doctor? The doctor process for video consults is as follows. When a patient enters the waiting room, the doctor is notified via email. The doctor clicks the Talk to Patient button, or if they would instead like to access the waiting room, they can enter this by clicking on Start a Video Consultation in the ToothService tab of OperaDDS. When accessing patients through OperaDDS, the doctor is taken to the waiting room to select a patient from the list on the left. After clicking, the doctor may chat with the patient and see forms the patient has filled while waiting. The doctor calls the patient through the portal when ready. The patient answers. One of my personal favorites here is the ability to share your screen. Both the doctor and the patient can share information via screen share. This way, if you'd like to review a chart or x-ray, it's easy to showcase to the patient on their end. During and after the call, the doctor is able to write notes. All notes and the chat history will be provided as a virtual consult summary in your ToothService tab, which may be sent back to the patient's chart in your practice management system. Some helpful tips. If you would like to hide the tooth on the widget or change the color of the button, your web designer may change the values in this area of the widget code by adjusting the show image value to false and adjusting the hex code of the button color as seen below. You may customize the questions asked in the forms of the widget in your OperaDDS Forms editor by visiting Settings, Feature Settings, Form Settings, and clicking on Edit next to any of the forms. I Have a Dental Emergency is named Virtual Consult Dental Emergency. I'd like to schedule an appointment is named Teledentistry Electronic Consultation. I want to improve my smile is named Virtual Consult Cosmetic Questionnaire. And the last tip for the widget is that video chat should be accessed through the Safari browser. Next up is Secure Email. Welcome to OperaDDS Secure Email Training. We start by clicking the Email tab, then Compose. On this page, we see a few options: to staff, to patient, to other office, and to group. Let's begin with sending a secure email to a staff member. Select to staff. If you've added your team members to OperaDDS, they will appear as you begin to type their name. If you attempt to type the email of a team member who is not yet added, the system will prompt you to add them to your account. Please note, only admins can add users to an account. Then, fill out the subject, fill in the body or content, add x-rays or images, and click the green Send button. It's that easy to send a secure email. Your staff will receive a notification to log in. Pro tip: for the best email results, make sure to whitelist care@operadds.com email address in your email client. This assures that emails show up in your inbox. Secondly, prior to adding a team member to OperaDDS, make sure they have a working email address to avoid the invitation from bouncing. Alright, next, let's send an email to a patient. The process is similar, but slightly different. Click To Patient. Begin typing in the patient's name, and OperaDDS will pull from your practice management system. If the patient does not yet exist in your PMS, you will be prompted to add the patient. In doing so, the patient will be created as a patient inside of OperaDDS. The very first time you email a patient, you will see a pop-up appear displaying the patient's username and password. OperaDDS is a secure, HIPAA-compliant portal, which means anybody who accesses information must have a login. You can easily text the patient's credentials from this pop-up by clicking Send Credentials, or print from the screen if the patient is still in the office. After doing so, fill in the rest of the email, add your attachments, and click the Send button. Your patient will receive a secure email. They will use the 4-digit code provided to them initially to log in. Whether you've texted it to them through OperaDDS when sending the email, printed it out for them, or told them over the phone. After logging in for the first time, the patient will be prompted to change their password. In the future, if you ever need to provide a password reset to a patient, simply click on the magnifying glass and search for the patient. After clicking their name, you'll be taken to their patient portal where you can see their info or send a password reset. Next up is sending an email to another office. Click Compose. Click To Other Office. Enter in the office's email. As always, if they exist in OperaDDS, they will appear. The system will load for a second, and if no results, you will be asked to invite them to use OperaDDS with you for free. Simply fill out their info and click Save. You will never need to do this a second time for that office. Fill the rest of the email and click Send. Last but not least is the ability to send an email to a group of individuals. Maybe you have a group of doctors to communicate with. Click To Group. When you click in the open field, you will see the default group we've added for you, which is called All Office Members. This is a group of all team members added to your office's OperaDDS account. The rest of the steps are the same, so let's go ahead and talk about creating a group. Click the Manage Groups tab. Click New Group. Enter the individual's email address in full. The system will locate them or ask you to invite them to use OperaDDS with you for free. Enter their info and click Save. You will now see them in your groups list. Remember to click Save here. As seen here, you've added a new group. One of my personal favorites of secure email is that you are not only able to send emails, but also take them back. In case of a mistake, you can easily retract an email for peace of mind, knowing the recipient on the other end can no longer view it. In your sent mail, simply click on the email retraction icon to take back an email. It's that easy. When sending emails, the receiving office will see your office's name on the email and place to log in. Remember, OperaDDS is free for those offices to use secure email with you and does require them to set up their free account. Lastly, with secure email, let's cover some settings to be aware of. Click Settings and you will see User Settings. The reason I point this out as part of secure email is because at the bottom of the page, there's a secure email signature you may add if you'd like to have a message at the end of your emails, such as a HIPAA disclaimer. Also in Settings are pending emails. Pending emails are emails or cases that have been sent in which the receiver has not created an OperaDDS account to view them. Once they create their account, they are removed from this list. The Actions column may be used to resend an invitation for an office to create their login, merge an invitation with an existing company that already has a login, and remove an invitation. And lastly, let's review Labs and Referrals. Labs and Referrals is an area that showcases all of your offices you have added through email. It is also used to search, add, and manage offices in your system. The Add Labs and Referrals page may be used to search for existing companies and/or invite companies you work with to use OperaDDS with you for free. Some helpful tips. All emails are saved on the OperaDDS servers. When you send an email, you are simply extending an invitation for the recipient to view the email. For this reason, you never need to resend an email, as long as it was sent to the correct email. Emails that were sent in the past will always be available for the office to access when they log in. Patient emails are available for 30 days. After 30 days, emails sent to patients are deleted for HIPAA purposes. Email retraction, taking back an email, is possible at any time and does not expire, even if the recipient has already looked at the email. Sending an email to another dental office, such as clicking the option for To Other Office, will add them to your list of labs and referrals. And lastly, when sending emails to patients, the username needed to log in is entered for them when logging in for the first time. The next feature in the Email tab is File Storage. Welcome to OperaDDS File Storage Training. Quick and easy, as file storage is a sub-feature of secure email. File storage is the ability to store files on the cloud so you can work remotely or collaborate with colleagues. Click the File Storage tab. Click New File Storage. Fill in the information and select from your list of labs and referrals who you want to share with, if at all, and click Save. In this area, simply upload your files and you're done. You may also edit the file storage, add folders, and notify others included on the file storage folder of any changes you've made. Lastly, under the Email tab is one of my favorites, Cases. Welcome to OperaDDS Cases Training. Cases is another sub-feature of secure email. Cases are a way to send referrals to a specialist or collaborate with colleagues. It's incredibly easy and effective. click the Cases tab. Click New Case. Select who the case was prescribed by. If it's a lab case, select a due date. Select your lab or referral you are sharing with, or click the plus icon if you'd like to add them from this area. You may also share. So if you want the oral surgeon, periodontist, and yourself all looking at the same case, you may. Select the patient. If you've got OperaDDS connected to your practice management system, your patients from your PMS will be available here. Click Save and Continue. This takes you to the details portion of the case. Select the teeth, select the type of case, and choose any of the default options. If you've set up canned comments in Settings, click here to add. Otherwise, type out any additional information to pass along. Then, click Save and Continue. Lastly, add your images or x-rays here and click Send Case. The receiving office will receive an email to log in to view your information. If they do not yet have an account, they will be prompted to create a new free account to view your case. Your entry will appear in your list of cases. You will be able to do a few different things from this area. Clicking Case Number takes you back into the case. Under the Actions column, you may print a patient copy with driving instruction to the office. You may print an office copy or download the case as a PDF. One of my favorites is the patient copy. Never again do you have to worry about sending a patient off with a referral slip and them not showing up at the other office, only to lose the slip you gave them with their PHI on it. The patient is supplied with driving instructions and the office info only. All case details are provided in the case that only the receiving office can view. Next up is one of my favorite features. As a dental hygienist, if there was one feature that I could never live without, it's chat. Welcome to OperaDDS Chat Training. Chat allows your team to send and receive messages on all of the devices you already use: computers, laptops, smartwatches, iPads, and cell phones. You want to start first by adding your team members as users as described in the beginning of this presentation. After you've added your team, scroll to the bottom of OperaDDS and click on the Resources page. Download the first option that appears on all computers you wish to use chat on. This is called the pop-up notifier. Next, download the OperaDDS app from the App Store. Now that you've downloaded the necessary pieces, there are 3 ways to log in: the notifier, the website, and the app. Some housekeeping items real quick. Make sure you're using the following software. For PC, use Google Chrome web browser. For iPhone or iPad, your iOS must be 11.3 or higher. For Apple Watch 1, 2, 3, and 4, your OS must be 4.3 or higher. And for Android devices, Marshmallow 6 or higher. To get us going with chat, let's start by visiting Chat Settings. Click Settings, Feature Settings, Chat Settings. Go through each tab setting up the chat system the way you like. Create teams, handoff checklists, add sounds and colors for each team member, create timers, and add canned messages in this area. Let's cover the chat screen. I like to work in the C-shaped method, so we'll start in the upper right. We see an area to place location. This will save to your device's IP address and display for any user that uses this device. Location is great to let people know where you are messaging from. At the top middle of the page, we see a Save folder where you can view files you've saved, and some filters to show previous messages. By default, OperaDDS will save all of your messages for 7 days. Anything saved in the Save folder will be saved permanently. The upper left, we see a list of users as well as some icons next to them. The green dot appears when a user is online. You may see a time appear next to this green dot, indicating the length of time the user has been inactive. After 60 minutes of inactivity, the green dot disappears to signal the user is not online. Next to this, there is a P icon. This stands for one-touch paging, which requests someone to you with the click of a button. You may select one or multiple users to send a message to. Users only ever see messages that they are tagged to. Below the users are teams. Teams are great because you can message multiple people at once with the click of a button. For example, a front office team or a doctor team can notify all users who are part of that team. I love this because it prevents spamming everyone else when we want to communicate with groups. In the middle of the screen, you will see your messages whether sent or received. Of course, when a message is received, you can save, reply all, or delete. Add your message at the bottom or use some of the helpful tools below it. Private messages are hidden when sent and can only be opened when clicked on. The urgent option tags the message with an urgent icon. Select timer allows you to set helpful times for things like knowing when the autoclave is finished sterilizing or when a crown is done milling. Select is the ability to pick a canned response so there's no typing needed. Simply click on the option you want and it types out your request. Last but not least is the checklist message. The best way to think about checklist message is it provides any staff member with the ability to share a checklist of information with another. For myself, the reason I love chat so much is because after a 5-minute review of the patient's teeth, I can send a checklist message to the doctor, and then they can stop in at their convenience to do the exam, knowing all of the preliminary findings. A great way to tee up case acceptance and speed up exams, because let's face it, we could all use a little more time for our appointments. At the end of the day, I also love that I have a reference or record of what was discussed with each patient, and I can easily paste this info into their chart. Of course, the green button in the lower right is the send button. Now, what about the notifier we added? Well, if I have logged into this notifier, then it will notify me by blinking and playing a sound specific to the user that sent a message. Next on our list is recall. Welcome to OperaDDS Recall Training. As we previously covered, click on Settings, Account Settings, Company Profile. Scroll down and make sure your time zone is set correctly. After verifying, click Settings, Feature Settings, Recall Settings. You will be taken to your recall settings. As we go through recall settings, I will be relaying best practices for your success. To begin, determine the following. Does your office currently utilize a recall system? If yes, determine a date you will turn off that system. Make a note of this. Activating OperaDDS Recall is easy, and we want to make sure there is no overlap with your existing software. This avoids patients receiving communication from 2 different platforms. After you've disabled your current recall system, you may turn on OperaDDS. Proceed through each tab of recall settings to turn on your desired notices. Turn on notifications on the upper right of each notice type. What you'll want to do when you turn on a new recall system, such as OperaDDS, is manually confirm your patients for the next 2 days. This said, after activating OperaDDS Recall, please manually confirm patients for the next 48 hours. This assures no patients slip through the cracks of your previous communication. As mentioned, I will cover best practices in this training. So with that said, let's turn on some notices. The first tab here is called the Enrollment tab. The first option is called the Welcome Letter, which also doubles as a patient portal invitation. We see the company logo and header that were previously added in your company profile settings. Turn this feature on. Simply click the toggle in the upper right. Black to the left, of course, signals that this is off, whereas green to the right signals on. After activating this, the benefit here is that OperaDDS will monitor your practice management system and automatically send a welcome letter to new patients that are added. This is a great way to welcome patients to your practice. Additionally, one of the more popular options here is adding your office's new patient forms to this welcome letter. In doing so, after you've added someone to your PMS as a new patient, the system will auto-send this welcome letter that includes your new patient forms for them to fill out electronically. To do so is incredibly easy. Simply visit your blank forms page and click on the copy button to copy your new patient forms packet. Then in Recall, for your welcome letter, go ahead and click the pencil icon to edit this message. Type out the following. To make your check-in as quick and easy as possible, please fill out your new patient forms below prior to your appointment. New patient forms. Then highlight the text New Patient Forms and click on the hyperlink button. In the pop-up that appears, paste the forms link you copied. Click Save and you're all set. Let's continue. You will see an option to manually send invitations to your patient base. I actually don't recommend using this when you get started. I like to crawl, walk, run, so let's come back to that at a later date. Should patients choose to join the patient portal, they will go through text message verification. Those that do not have a number to text will be asked to contact your office to receive their login credentials for the portal. Anytime a patient needs help with access to the portal, you may click on the magnifying glass in the upper right and type in their name. Click on them when they appear to visit their patient portal. At the top, you will see an option to invite them to the portal unless the system has already done so. On the far right, you will either see their credentials or the option of a password reset. You can also view their username in the patient information area on the left. Back to Recall. Turning on the patient portal enrollment success email will trigger an email to the patient that they have successfully set up their portal account after doing so. This notice is optional. The next tab is called Scheduled Notices, or in other words, notices for appointments that are on your practice management system schedule. We see a similar setup as the previous notices. To edit a single notice, click on the drop-down to select the notice you want to edit, and then click the pencil icon. This will allow you to change the verbiage. If you'd like to view how the notice will appear to the patient, click on the eyeball icon. On these notices, there is also an additional setting area. On the right, you will see a gear icon to adjust the settings of this notice. Click here. We have some recommended settings, however, feel free to modify to your liking. Set the days prior to the appointment you'd like this reminder or confirmation to go out. Most common is 7 days prior, but some offices like to do 14 days. I like to send this first notice for both confirmed and unconfirmed appointments. What is the difference? If an appointment is already confirmed, we'll simply send a reminder. If an appointment is not confirmed, we will send a confirmation. The delivery method is where all the magic happens. Determine how you would like to contact your patients. There are many options to choose from. Text message and email will send both. Email or text will send one or the other in this order. Text message or email will send one or the other in this order. Then we get into options for including voice calling. There are 2 options for voice calling to be included. Text or email or phone if we can't reach the patient, or text and email or phone if we can't reach the patient. For the non-voice options, if we're unable to contact a patient via text or email, the system will send a reminder to contact the patient if you select the option to be reminded. For voice options, the system will not send this as a reminder to your office as we will cover all options to contact the patient. Lastly, choose family settings for this option. My recommendation is to choose Send a Notice to each family member for their individual appointment. What this would do is assure dad and mom get their own messages. Kids will be sent to the responsible party on file. We'll cover this more a little later in other settings. Follow these same steps for the remaining notices on this page. Make sure when you are done setting, you turn on by toggling on the first notice, second notice, and same-day notice. Speaking of same-day notice, one thing to keep in mind. When editing the settings for the same day, there is an option to determine how many hours prior to the appointment you want to remind a patient. I recommend setting this at 2 hours prior. How this will work is the following. If an appointment is at 10 a.m., the message will be delivered to the patient at 8 a.m. There are other settings that come into play, which we will cover later, but I want you to reference for now. They are time of day settings and weekend settings. So for example, let's say you have your settings to allow OperaDDS to send between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. Let's also say, for example, the patient's appointment is at 8 a.m. For your same-day notice, you have set it to send 2 hours prior. We wouldn't want to wake the patient up at 6 a.m. So what will happen is that OperaDDS will notice that this message is out of hours, and instead of sending at 6 a.m. on the day of, it will send the night prior. The system will send this message the night prior at the latest time you have set. And in this example, your hours were set 8 to 5, so it will send at 5. Then there are weekend settings. By default, weekends are turned off. The reason I mention this is because if your same-day notice is sent the night prior, but the night prior lands on a weekend, then instead of your patient getting that same-day notice at 6 a.m. on Monday morning, they would get it on Friday night at 5 p.m. I always like to make sure this is clear as the settings you set forth will dictate how the system will interact with patients. We'll touch on this again when we get to that section. Lastly in this area, at the bottom of the page are postcard notices. Please note, postcards are an additional fee which we will cover later. After turning on your scheduled notices, click on the next tab down and go through your unscheduled notices, or in other words, notices to patients who do not have an appointment scheduled. I like to turn on the first due notice. A due notice means someone is going to be due for their upcoming appointment. Skip the second due notice, then turn on the first past due notice. A past due notice means the date of their hygiene visit has come and gone without them scheduling an appointment. Turn on all of the past due notices. At the end of the day, in order to properly care for our patients, we must get them scheduled, so I don't view this as too much communication. I typically set the fourth past due notice to 99 days as this is the limit. And once again, if you like to use postcards, they are at the bottom of this page for due notices. Next, scroll back up and click on the Birthday Notices tab on the left. Simply turn these on. If you'd like to edit, view, or change the image, you may do so by using the icons available. The next tab is called Recall Types. This has already been set for you during the installation, so you may disregard. However, I'd like to cover it so you're aware of what they mean. OperaDDS will sync your practice management system types. These could be anything from next appointment to perio to prophy. Essentially, they are types in your PMS that have dates associated with them, and the system will monitor these dates for each patient to determine when their appointments are. You may also see some other types such as FMX or bite wings. Do not select these options, of course, because we do not want to send appointment notices based on the last time someone had an x-ray taken. The common options you would see are next recall, prophy, child prophy, perio, and perio maintenance. These are some of the traditional options we see available to offices and will assure you are set up for success. The next tab is Settings. On this page, I like to start with Voice Settings. You will select the hours available for OperaDDS to call your patients. If you're using voice, the system comes with default messages to play to patients, or you may upload your own. We even display the text you should say when recording your voice. If you'd like to test a call, type in your number and click Test Call. You may choose whether you prefer a male or female voice to state the message. Below this is text and email settings. Again, choose the hours a day you allow OperaDDS to send messages on your behalf. Your time zone is pulled in from your company profile settings that we set earlier. You see we default weekends to be off, and to turn on, simply deselect this option. You also see minor settings are turned on. I highly recommend leaving this setting on, as it will assure minor communication is sent to the responsible party. How this works is that if a patient is under 18 and the communication for the patient is active, meaning in your PMS you allow them to get texts and emails, OperaDDS will send their notices to the responsible party such as mom or dad. After the patient turns 18, then they receive their own notices. Dentrix and Open Dental by default have those options for you turned on, whereas Eaglesoft requires you to select Receives Text or Receives Email in the patient's chart when you create them. OperaDDS will go off of what is in your PMS. At the bottom of the page, you will see the From name, which is simply the name that will appear in the text messages we send. Scroll back up and let's cover PMS status. This is another page set during installation, but good to cover. The statuses on the left are the way your PMS will speak to Opera, and the status on the right are the way Opera will speak to your PMS. But what does this mean? Ideally, you would have a confirmed and unconfirmed status on the left and confirmed and unconfirmed status on the right, so they line up or match up. Any that are left blank will be viewed as unconfirmed. You may disregard this page. The last tab is the postcard packages. As previously mentioned, postcards are an additional fee, and you could select the package you prefer here. Postcards will auto-renew after you have extinguished all postcards. Unused postcards are good for 1 year. Now that we've gone through all of the setup of recall and turn things on, what's next? As mentioned, you will want to confirm your patients for 2 days after you turn on recall. This assures patients who are coming in over the course of the next couple of days are not missed by the settings you have set. After turning on recall, later tonight the system will run what is called a scheduler that will compile 30 days worth of messages and sync them into your portal. This said, let's head over to the Recall tab to take a look at what this means. The Recall tab is home to many sub-features: Messages, Calendar, Secure Email, and Patients. The main one we will start with here is the Messages tab. The Messages tab contains action-required messages, future messages, past messages, and direct two-way text messages. The Action Required tab is like your to-do list, or items that require action on your part. Maybe a patient responded to reschedule or sent you a message that you need to handle. Those would be listed in this area. After taking care of the message, I recommend archiving the message on the right. This will assure your to-do list stays nice and clean. If you do receive a message in this area, you may communicate back to the patient by simply clicking on the message and replying. So a great way to reduce cancellations when a patient can't make it. Instead, you can offer a new time and attempt to save the production or recommend another day that works better. The Future tab is the next 30 days of communication that are going to be sent out. If you want to cancel a notice from going out, you may do so by selecting that option next to the individual's notice you see listed. Now remember, you just turned on recall, and the scheduler will begin for your office tonight, so you won't see anything here until tomorrow. Moving forward, all appointments that are in the system will be updated every 30 minutes when the system syncs. All new appointments will be added when the scheduler runs that night. There are some exceptions to the scheduler each night to be made aware of. Welcome letters go out when a new patient is synced into the system every 30 minutes. The welcome letter is typically sent 10 minutes after it's been added. Moving an appointment will trigger a new notice to the patient in the following ways. If moving from 9 a.m. to 8 a.m., the patient will get a new reminder of the new time. The only time this does not occur is if it is the day of the appointment you have made the change, as the patient would obviously have been communicated with to make this change. If moving an appointment from the hygiene column to the doctor column for the same time, a new notice is not sent to the patient because the time is the same. If a patient has multiple appointments on the same day, OperaDDS will send one notice to the patient if each appointment has the same status, whether confirmed or unconfirmed. If they are different, the system will treat these as separate appointments and send separate notices. So if you've scheduled the patient for 8 a.m. in hygiene and 9 a.m. in the doctor's column, make sure the appointments have the same status. This way, when the patient confirms, OperaDDS will confirm both of the appointments for the patient from one message. All right, then there's the Pass tab. Of course, this is for things that have already been sent out by the automated system. There are filters to select the types of messages, or you can filter by the direct messages you have sent. You will notice in each tab there's the ability to click on the patient's name. This is an option to be directed to their patient profile where you will see their information, messages that have been sent to them, as well as their communication preferences. The last on this row of features is the direct two-way text message option. This is an option to send a direct text or non-secure email to a patient. Simply click, type in the patient's name, and select them from the list to begin communicating. Or, if you'd like to send a mass text or mass email, you may do so from this pop-up by selecting that option. Great work! At the end of the day, when it comes to recall, to set it and forget it. So my recommendation is to get things turned on and let the system work its magic. Ideally, to get started, simply turning things on is the most important aspect. Last and certainly not least in our feature training is reviews. Welcome to OperaDDS Reviews Training. So now that you've provided an amazing experience with OperaDDS to your customers, now it's time to reap the rewards. OperaDDS reviews are the best reviews on the market, and here's why. We allow you to customize your review settings, much like you did in Recall. We start by clicking Settings, Feature Settings, Review Settings. Go through each tab on the left, starting with Notices. Toggle the notice on, and then click the gear icon, which will display the settings. Here you see similar settings as Recall, and an additional setting called Send Frequency. What this means is that your office has the option of the following. Set the system to not auto-send, but rather allow you to send things manually, or allow OperaDDS to auto-send to patients. The auto-send option is available in 4 ways. For any of the auto options you choose, the maximum number of reviews sent for a patient in a day is 1, meaning if a patient has a hygiene visit and then a restorative visit with the doctor right after, they will receive 1 review. The reviews are sent 2 hours after the appointment has been marked as completed or walked out. We do this to allow enough time for the patient to leave your office. If you send a review manually, of course it would be sent right away. But for those with auto-sending turned on, we will wait 2 hours to make sure the patient is provided with the best experience. Send for every appointment means that if the patient has a hygiene appointment today and a restorative appointment tomorrow, they will receive a review for each of these visits. Whereas the remaining 3 options allow you to filter the reviews to every 30, 60, or 90 days. So in these examples, if a patient had 5 appointments in the course of a 30-day span, they would only ever receive 1 review request. A great way to hone in on how you like to present reviews as an option to your patients. The Messaging tab is the same layout as the Recall Messaging tab and allows you to dictate the times of day we will send reviews. If you have a patient that comes in for an emergency out of working hours, we will send the review to the patient when the normal working hours are met. The last tab is my favorite and is called Social Media. In this area, you can add Facebook and Google, as well as grab the piece of code to add reviews to your website. To add Google reviews, simply follow the instructions. In the Enter Location field, type in your business name and Google will display you in the results. Click your business name and copy the place ID that appears. Then place this inside of the big field below and hit Save Changes. You've now added Google to your reviews. Adding Facebook is slightly different. Simply visit your Facebook page and copy the URL to your reviews page and paste it in the big field below and hit save. You'll see it convert to a number. It's that easy. The website option is one of my personal favorites because it allows you to display your wins on your website. Click the copy code button and email that to your website designer. Here's an example of how this is going to look on your site. Notice how the color matches to the branding in the website? Make sure to adjust the color to meet your needs in the social media tab. Let's head over to the Reviews tab to cover some additional info. The Reviews tab is your review management area that will display all reviews as seen here. Your score is aggregated at the top. Your Google and Facebook reviews are synced over directly from those platforms once a day, so if you've moved from another service, all of your reviews on Google and Facebook aren't lost. You will see Google appear with the Google logo and Facebook with the Facebook logo. When a patient is requested to provide a review, they have 3 options: review you on Google, review you on Facebook, or inform management. The third option is used to deter negative reviews online and keep things in-house. All internal reviews will be displayed with the OperaDDS logo next to them. We also see the option for manually sending a review in the upper right, which isn't necessary if you have turned on the auto sending of reviews. Lastly, we see a toggle next to the reviews. Reviews with a toggle are reviews that the patient has consented to the use and disclosure of the review, or in other words, they consent to the review being on your website. When turned on, the review is shown on your site. This review then counts toward the score shown on your site. When turned off, the review is not shown on your website and does not count toward your score. This is great for filtering out those weird reviews we sometimes get on Google or Facebook, so if a patient says something silly, you can avoid showing that on your website. Now that you're an OperaDDS Pro, I'd like to leave you with a helpful resource. Visit operadds.com/help to view our resource center where we have instructional guides and videos, or at the bottom of the page, options to contact support. With that, thank you again for investing the time to view this webinar and taking the first step in getting help to improve the productivity in your office. Thanks again, and have a great day.